All right, good evening. We are live. I'm attorney Vince Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined by my two co-hosts for this evening, Miss G, Miss Georgette Truen. Good evening, Miss G. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Good, good. And we have our other co-host, Mr. Darren Guay. Mr. Darren, how are you today?
Excellent, Mr. Davis. Excellent. Thank you for asking.
Very good. So, our guest that we had for tonight apparently maybe technical difficulties or got cold feet, but we're
No,
not going to have we're not going to have a guest this evening. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some questions from people posting on the sites that they're watching. And so if you have a question, and you're out there in the audience, go ahead and post your question for us. And Miss G, do you have any questions for me?
Okay. So I just found out recently that it's PJ Media News and Politics. Okay, found out that they hired um, at the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. One of those hires is turning heads, and some of those heads out to roll as a result. So basically, Barbara Ferrer, PhD, who has led the LA County Department of Public Health since 2017, is no stranger to hiring felons. So she hired a felon who just came out of prison in the department. So isn't that illegal though to hire anyone in the department of DHS, DCFS, CPS, a felon that was
You
in
know,
prison?
I don't know, but was this person hired by DCFS or the Department of Health?
Department of Health, Department of Health, which is involved with DCFS in Los Angeles County.
Okay, so
So
sometimes
DHS.
sometimes they do work with DCFS, but they're a separate entity. And I'm kind of surprised that you could get a job as a convicted felon.
Mhm.
But I don't know all the ins and outs of
Well,
hiring in LA County.
the reporter also adds that this is how politically connected this felon is. So basically, he's politically connected with LA County, with DHS. So to me, as a parent or a citizen, wouldn't that be against the department?
Don't I don't quite follow your question.
Wouldn't that be corruption? Wouldn't that be considered corruption?
Not necessarily.
Mm.
If it wasn't illegal to hire a felon, and I don't know that it is. I mean, it would seem odd that you can do that, but who knows what the law is on that? I don't.
Mm. Okay. This reporter also adds, his name is Chris Queen, that some of the investigation he's done shows also that some of the social workers have prior records against them, meaning prior, misdemeanors, what have you. He's trying to get a full story on that, but he's doing more research on it. But some of the research he's done so far shows that some of the social workers have records against them. Isn't that also kind of
Also, what?
weird to
Yeah,
hire?
it is very strange that you would hire someone in a position of public trust like that has a felony conviction or maybe any kind of conviction. But I don't know the law. That might be perfectly legal.
But how can they go and take a child because, and then they do a background check and the parent, and 15 years ago the parent has a felony, and all of a sudden because of that parent's felony there's something wrong with the parent, but yet you're hiring people who are felons,
Hmm.
right? I mean, do you understand I guess what I'm trying to relay here, because it makes absolutely zero sense.
Well, how many things make sense in the law?
No, they should definitely go by Gander.
It's absolutely, this is, I just can't believe it. I had to read it like 4 times to understand if I'm reading it right. But even that reporter is kind of like, I just can't believe it. Like he
Right.
couldn't believe it.
You know, I don't know the answer to that. Whether they can hire someone that has a felony conviction. I if they can, I'm just surprised about it. But it won't be the first thing I'm surprised about in dealing with CPS.
I don't know. I just feel like this whole system is so there's so much corruption going on. There's so much corruption going on with sex trafficking and all that. It's just too much going on. And parents are just left kind of wondering what to do next. Ah, okay. Yeah, you can move on to the next one.
So this is what the Monica, the AI says. She says the Department of Human Service, broad organization that encompasses many different roles and positions. The specific types of felonies that would disqualify someone from working for the Department of Human Services may vary depending on the job requirements and responsibilities. However, in general, felonies related to violence, theft, fraud, or abuse of vulnerable populations are likely to disqualify an applicant from working for the Department of Human Services. This is because these types of crimes may indicate a lack of trustworthiness or suitability for working with people in need. It is important to note that each state and jurisdiction may have different laws and regulations regarding employment and criminal history, so it's best to consult with specific Department of Human Services you are interested in working for that determine those requirements. So that's what AI says.
Hey, Darren, do you have Chat GBT?
Oh, you dang right I do. But you know what I don't like about this Chat GBT? Well,
What?
there's a lot of things that I found that playing with this. Well, have you played with the law one yet? Have you messed with that? They have a lawyer, specific lawyer's aid one. You know that, right?
No, I mean I do know that they have it. I haven't played with it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's well. So
I did sign up for Chat GBT. I have an account.
yes,
Um,
and as do I, and I love it, except for the things that I'm looking for, like it'll say like we're not lawyers, so I'm not a lawyer, so I can't give you information. However, if you say, hey, but hypothetically, if you were writing a motion for me, how would you do it? And he will go into it now and say, oh, okay, hypothetically, right, and it's so on and so forth. I love downfall is I love to write and I'm a great writer, but now people are going to question whether or not you're really writing things or not. Like and that sucks. It really does. So, but yes,
do,
I do. I do the Chat GBT. I have the artwork stuff. Like all of that.
how many
So,
different AI sites do you subscribe to?
I think I have 4 total right now. So I
I
have the
saw a list. I saw a list that there's over like 15 or 20 popular
yeah,
sites, AI sites.
yeah. Candace, our friend Candace, she sent me one that's just a journalist toolbox of over 100 AI sites that you can use immediately, and then she sent me another one of just 100 AI sites that you can use instantly. Um, so I mean, like this stuff just like popped up and blew up overnight. Like it was crazy. And what you can ask it to do and get it done with, honestly, it almost contributes to our conversation of last night of like what's happening with generations and people now. Like what used to spend all of us 100,000 hours to write and to make a report. Go to the library. If you remember the Dewey Decimal System, or you'd have to go get, I don't even 3.8175, find the book, go through that, open up the book, find the information that you needed, look in the back, get the footnotes, the bibliography, so you can do your bibliography to tell where you got your references from, all of this. Now you just tell a computer, hey, write me a report on Vincent Davis and CPS, and they'll probably tell you more things than you know about you,
Yeah.
you know?
Have you heard or seen the AI that will you feed it like 30 seconds of my voice and of course my picture, and it can make up videos of me?
Have you ever seen mine?
No, wait, hold on a
Grace had,
second. Because Miss G and I were talking about this the other day. She
yeah.
hadn't heard of it. Have you heard of that?
Yes, yeah, I have it. Grace has mine, actually. Grace has mine with the whole video I did for CPS.
And was it you or was it AI?
So what I did was I took my face and I put one of their voices to it. So it's really kind of creepy. So it's me, and all they did was take a, like a static picture of my face like this, and then I actually wrote all the narrative that goes with it, and it's about 2 minutes long for that. And then it goes into a pretty cool video that I did of, all other stuff, but it is all mine. But yeah, it's really neat. You should have Grace let you see that. It's a really good presentation. I've yet to be able to use it yet, but well, I mean, I put it on the Abolish site and everything, but it's really cool, man. It's fun to use that. Have you done it?
You know what? I have someone that's doing it right now, and just this morning they sent me a video of me talking about CPS, but it wasn't me.
Right. Well,
It
and
was
that's going to be the danger of this stuff now too.
right. So it was my
Yeah.
it apparently was my voice, and it was my picture, and it was moving my lips, and head, and it wasn't me.
Yeah,
And,
it's
and
really
here,
it's
so
creepy.
less than a year ago, maybe a year ago, that video you could tell that it was just a cartoon type thing. The technology that they presently have, you can't tell.
Yeah, I would. It's really you
But
just
Davis,
from
it
this.
looks creepy though. It looks
What?
creepy. It looks creepy. It doesn't look like
Not
the
anymore. Not anymore.
well, the one Darren
But
has
you're
looks creepy.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
he
that's
might
because
be
it's not
used.
my voice either. So that kind of makes it a
He,
little weirder, like it's not my voice. So it's kind of like that's, and you're right, my teeth are all. Uh, Great, you should tell Grace if you wanted to. You should watch the video. It's a few minutes. It's good and informative for CPS. It's pretty good. It is. I mean, I will pat myself on the back for my first AI all around type video.
It's
but
creepy.
you, but use the current technology and try to do an AI video of yourself with your voice. That's
Yeah.
gonna
No.
that's gonna freak you out.
Yeah. Okay. Just seeing yourself say something that you didn't see yourself say
Right.
before.
Right.
Right. I will. I'll do that after the show. But yeah, it's. Do you have anything that's up and coming to plan to make a defense against this stuff?
I don't think you can defend against it.
Well, I mean,
What
aren't
you
you looking for people coming in to start to try to? I mean, there's got to be some plagiarism things that are going to be on
there,
the pike, or
there's
perjury, or
there's no plagiarism. It's all original
no.
content. You know,
Well, unless
Eh,
someone else gets a friend did and then make something as you.
well, they can do that. That's what Miss G and I were talking about. They can make a video of me with my voice saying anything they want, and you won't be able to tell the difference.
That's scandalous though.
Well,
But
haven't
isn't
you been
that
watching the
dangerous?
news?
I
Yes,
have
but
been
haven't
watching the news and
and the guy
Elon
who
Musk.
yeah, Elon Musk, he's done with it because he said it's too dangerous.
It's too dangerous.
Right.
What's going to
No one's going
happen?
to know.
Those sci-fi movies that we thought 20 years ago could never happen, that we build a machine that we can't control,
Mhm.
and it starts
Well,
taking over the world.
what happened on just launched the nuclear, so the world goes up in arms, but that was not him either.
Okay, I got to read a question. Nayli
Like
says, sorry to interrupt. Sorry to interrupt, but hopefully you can read my question. Okay. So, Nayli, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Question, I got my kid removed due to domestic violence April 5th. I'm fighting my case. I got in trouble with the law, got booked in jail for a misdemeanor. Does that put my case in bad jeopardy? It's all relative. It depends on what you were booked for. Were you booked for some type of vehicle incident, or was it drugs, was it alcohol, was it violence, were you trying to rob a store? It just depends. Generally speaking, Ely, getting arrested during your CPS case is not a good strategy.
no.
They will turn it they will turn it and twist it and use it against you, generally
Mhm.
speaking.
Mhm.
Okay. So, I don't know if it was, driving 100 miles an hour or, or you were found intoxicated or something. I don't know. So it depends. The facts really matter. Really matter. The facts matter more than the law. A lot of people think the law is all seeing, all knowing, and all definite, but it's not. It's really the facts. There's an old saying. I said this once before. I didn't make this up. Somebody else who trained me years ago told me, a senior attorney told me, that in any case, the best thing to argue in the courtroom are the facts of the case.
Mhm.
If the facts are against you, argue the law. And if the law is against you, argue the fairness, the equities.
What do you mean by equities?
Like it's not fair, it's not just.
We know it's not fair and it's not just, but how can you argue the equities?
Have you ever argued with someone saying that something wasn't fair?
Yeah, you.
Yeah. And in the stratagem of persuasion, arguing the equities is the worst strategy.
Oh, wow.
Okay, but
That's why you never win the argument.
I never win with you, no, ever.
You're using the worst strategy,
I
and
know.
you think it's the best.
Why don't you? I know, and
Yeah,
we've been doing this for
Darren,
years.
Darren, I just told her a strategy.
Right. You just taught her how to win.
I just told her how to win.
Right.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, and for all of you
Yeah, a
that have
little coach.
CPS
I'm trying to
cases,
write it down. I want to put that on a shirt too.
for
Can you
all of
explain?
you that have CPS cases, listen to this. The best strategy in your case is to argue the facts. Now, this is just my humble opinion, okay, that I learned from someone. Is to argue the facts of the case.
But what if you argue the facts of the case and you're dealing with a very intelligent snake and you still don't win?
Then you argue the law.
What if you argue the law with an intelligent snake and you still don't win?
Then you argue the equities, the
Now
fairness.
tell us how to argue the equities,
Why would I tell you the worst strategy?
because that's where I'm at this
That's the one you always use.
so
And
it's
it
like,
never
I'm
works.
trying, Davis. Come on. You don't want to tell me? Really?
No, listen. You know how to argue the equities. You always argue the equities. You think appealing to the fairness is going to work. And let me tell you why it's the worst argument.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because when you start talking about fairness is different things to different people,
Right.
depending on their background, their experiences, all of that stuff. Right? So you might be arguing something that you think is fair, but it doesn't matter to the person you're arguing with because they have a different background than you.
Mm-hmm.
So you think that great argument about fairness is going to persuade somebody, and it just does the reverse.
Okay.
So argue the facts. I remember I did a case
I
one time.
did. It didn't work. But anyways, go on.
I did a case, but it was a family law custody case.
Mm-hmm.
And I represented dad, and the mom was represented by a very well-known, very experienced, very good lawyer in Southern California. And I concentrated my closing argument on the facts. And as a matter of fact, and I learned this from the Jerry Spence Trial Lawyers College, I gave the closing argument, or most of the closing argument, in the third person. So I gave the closing argument from the perspective of the mother, who was not my client. Okay. And I pretended, and I even changed my voice a little bit, to be the mother giving the closing argument. Okay. It kind of blew everybody away. And halfway through the closing argument, the opposing attorney she didn't know what to do. She objected. And the judge looked at her and said, "Well, what's your objection?" There's a list of evidentiary objections.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't one of them. And he told me to continue. I think he was kind of interested. I feel that he thought it was fascinating. I ended up winning that case. And it was just the issue of custody and visitation. I ended up winning. And to this day, when I see that attorney, she says to me, "I don't know what you did in that courtroom, but it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. You did something. I'm trying to figure out what you did." And what I did was I gave it a closing argument in a case where I impersonated her client, arguing, basically admitting the facts of all the things that we said she did wrong. I first saw this technique of trial advocacy given by someone from the Trial Lawyers College, who argued it in a car versus car lawsuit. And he gave the closing argument from the perspective of the bumper on the car that did the hitting. He was the bumper. And he described the accident from the bumper's perspective.
What?
Yeah, talk about persuasive. He said he gave the closing argument as if he were the bumper on the other person's car, showing or seeing everything that would happen during the accident. Now think about this for a second. You both have had experiences being a parent.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever given a story or told the kids something from a make-believe point of view? And if you have, how persuasive that was with the child?
My mom and dad did that with me.
Right.
Yeah.
But think about it. When you're in court, all you're trying to do is to persuade someone of something. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm telling you are good, or what is considered good persuasive technique. A lot of people, they call me, they want to talk about the law, and half the time they got the law wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I
Or
agree.
they only have 50% of the story, or of the law, I mean.
I agree.
So the law is not the best strategy. It's the second best.
Persuasive.
Okay, I answered that question. Did anybody see what Charlene Stang was asking?
They served me yesterday and court Wednesday. So they served her to be in court on Wednesday.
Okay.
So she's going to her court on Wednesday, and she said there is not enough time.
Okay, so unfortunately, if the case is in California, they can serve you a couple of days before, and there's no issue about it not being enough time. It's not like a civil case
Right.
where you have to be served 30 days in advance.
Right.
So,
but we don't know. Charlene, is the case in California, sweetheart, or?
Hey, Darren, I'm getting some feedback from you.
No, is there the
Oh, that's ChatGPT.
There was another question earlier, I think. I'm not sure.
Can you find it?
Here
it is.
Here.
How do I get the nurse's aide at the office on the stand? You serve a subpoena. You and your attorney have to serve a subpoena to have that witness come to court and be sworn in to take testimony.
She said she's in pro per.
That's a real bad strategy.
Mhm.
Real bad. Um,
She said, can she request a video during the visits?
you, I believe that you can. I'm doing a case right now where the visits were videotaped, and the social worker says, the visits were horrible and horrendous and blah, blah, blah. So the client tells me, hey, Vince, subpoena the videos because I saw the camera right in the ceiling there in the corner. They videotaped all my visits. So they'll show that what the social worker's not telling the truth. I subpoenaed the videos and I got this very good motion to quash my subpoena
Mhm.
from the social worker's attorney. They don't want to turn over the videos because apparently the client is, accurate. The videos won't show that the visits were terrible. They'll show just the opposite, that they were great visits. But I have to rethink that, Charlene. I don't know if they will let you videotape the visits.
But why not, though? I mean, he's going to show that what she does in the visits instead of them lying, don't you think? Because they
Yeah,
usually do lie on the
but I
reports.
but I think what's going to happen is the judge may be concerned that Charlene may use that video on social media
No,
or
but he can. The judge,
put it up on some website.
right? If the judge
It's
is
going to
concerned,
be concerned if they're going to see that they're
then
good
the judge will
parents.
write down like, "Hey, you can't." The judge can easily order for her not to show the video on social media. So why would the judge be concerned and not? It doesn't make sense because if that's what the judge is concerned about, then make sure that it's in writing. She can't do it, right?
What I would suggest, Charlene, is that you ask for permission to set up a video camera to videotape the visits, but let the social worker hold on to it. You know, that
Ah,
way, they can't say that you know, were a danger in releasing the videotape on social media. One of the biggest things in juvenile dependency, and you may not agree with this, but one of the biggest things in the law is keeping the child's name and likeness confidential. Now, I'm not saying that's the way it should be, but that's just the law. So they don't want, pictures of the kid who's a dependent flying all around, the social media and the internet.
you know
So the-
why, Vincent? I think the reason for that is because they don't want anyone to find that child because their mission is to adopt that child. That's their goal.
that may be, that may be,
Yeah,
but
because there's a motive
I'm just,
behind the
I'm,
reaction.
I,
But
I can
we
tell
all
you,
know what the real truth is. The real truth is that they don't want any videos to show that the parents and the kids are really in love with each other. They don't want to give any reason that they're not. They shouldn't be. Listen, if they would have taken the videos of us with our daughter and our visits, hands down, there's no, like they have those at every place. You're going to tell me that none of these places have cameras? They have it all. They just
Mhm.
don't want anybody to see. It's just like you say, go get that bonding, the bonding study. Why? Because that's an absolutely huge indicator that the child shouldn't be removed from the parent. However, they put up a huge stink about it. They don't come in and say, let's get a bonding study. Like you as a good attorney come out and say, look, this is one of the things we need to do this because this bonding person will say, hey, this. So they don't want to do anything that's going to show that your child and you do have a connection or a bond. They want to portray that you are the furthest from that kid that could possibly be, next to an alien. And that's the reason they're not going to let you videotape anything and see anything.
Here's
Like that's
here's a question. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure and like and subscribe to our channel. ER on YouTube says, I'm a relative of a child in CPS in Minnesota. I'm in California. Child lived with me for 18 months. Child is with great aunt and two half brothers. Aunt is alienating the child and emotionally abusive. How do I prove this in court? Okay, that's a great question, but I'm not going to give you a great answer. And the reason is because I don't have enough information, right? I don't know the facts.
it's kind of hard to prove the other person is abusive in court, right? Because
No, not necessarily. I mean, if you have witnesses that could come and testify, if you have an expert that come in and look at, you know, for here's I've seen this is one of the hardest things to do.
Mhm,
Mother says dad is alienating and the child from her.
mhm,
Mother gets on the stand and says A, B, C, D, E, the
mhm,
facts that she's seen.
mhm,
Then mother calls a psychologist, an expert witness, to get on the stand to say, well, if the mother's is believed and her ABC is true, then
mhm.
that is parental alienation.
But the expert witness requires money, obviously. Anyone you subpoena, you have to pay. Um, and even a 730 evaluation, a psych evaluation, also you have to pay for. Which I think the cheapest one I found is like in California is like 43,000. I mean $4,300. Just so you know.
Yeah.
So
So I mean, but the whole system is expensive.
exactly.
I got a call. I don't know if this was from you or from somebody else in the office. I got a call today. A grandmother in another state. I don't know if it was Michigan. Let's say it was Michigan, somewhere in the Midwest,
Hmm.
having problems getting the child placed with her, concerned that the child's going to be adopted out. How many times have we heard that story? Just a million times.
A million times.
And she wanted me to do the case for free
Hmm.
and to even pay for my own expenses to fly back to Michigan.
I know.
Now, if she was downtown LA, down the street around the corner, maybe 45
Work
minutes from me on
something
the
out.
freeway, I might be able to do something. But I can't fly to, Michigan for free.
I
But
was told, I know who you're talking about, by the way. I was told by several people that you can do cases for free and that they don't understand why you tell people that you live in a one-bedroom apartment. So basically they think that you're a billionaire or a millionaire and you can because yeah, exactly. So I was telling the person today, and I know who said it, um but I told them prior and I told one today, just because he's an attorney doesn't mean he poops money out. And I said, there's a lot of people who actually hire us, and you have a good heart, and you give them you know, um, you give them like a payment plan, even if you don't know them, and then they get their kids back and never pay. So
right.
guess who has to pay your attorneys? You do, Davis. So people don't understand that. So I just wanted to make it clear to those who think Davis is not with us in the fight
You
and
know,
all he cares about is this and that. You
I
guys need
I
to
ex-
get your
I
shit
explained it.
together.
I explained to somebody one time. I said, you know what? I said I rent an office in an office building, and the funny thing is, my landlord
Wants money.
every first of the month he's knocking
Mhm.
at my door. He wants his rent check.
Ain't it?
You know what?
And they kiss your butt
Every
at the same time.
every 20th of the month, AT&T wants to be paid for their phone bill.
Ain't
Can you?
that something?
Spectrum wants their money for internet.
And your attorneys too.
Payday is Fridays at my office.
Hmm.
Guess what? Everybody wants to be paid. Can you
I
believe
know.
that?
Yeah,
Can you
everybody that works
believe?
there. Yeah.
Because
That's
I'm
exactly
told
what I
I'm
said, by the way.
I'm told that people that work with me, they have to pay rent and mortgages at their own home.
Hmm. Hmm.
They have
Right.
to they
But
have to buy
now,
food for their kids.
but what I'm
They
gonna
have
do is
to pay the
I'm
gas
gonna
bill and the electric bill.
let me where this comes from, right, is where the facts are when someone calls up to you and they say, um, for instance, when I called you, your retainer fee for me was $40,000.
You're in
Um,
Maine.
right, correct.
I'm in
That's what
LA.
I'm saying. So it's an astronomical. And then when we had called and talked about the appeal, the amount had gone up to like $100,000 because it was all that time and all those things. So what I think a lot of people get in their heads are $100,000. They don't think about the no one's paying their bills. They don't think about all the other stuff that goes with it. You just think of people see $100,000 price tag on, and holy crap, that guy must be worth money. When in fact, like you said, you have all of these other hiccups or attentions or, any of these type of things that go along with it. So I think that's where the misinterpretation lays. I don't think people think necessarily that you're loaded and you should whatever, but I just feel like because I kind of know where that was coming from. So I think that just in those realms, like, whoa, like if I look, I'm a bio recovery technician in my former life, right? I made $175 an hour. So that was a lot of money to people. But like you say, no, by the time I get done paying my bio recovery fees, my toxic waste generating permits, all of these things, $175 isn't anything. I would go home, some of my guys would make more than I would, on jobs, so people just never, when they say these things, they're not thinking of the net and the gross of, the reality of the situations, and that's just unfortunate that people look at things that way.
Yeah. So the grandma that I spoke to or that called us today, the one in Michigan, right?
Oh my God.
She wanted me. Do you know what? I went to Detroit within the last year. You know how much round trip ticket to Detroit is, economy class?
It's, I don't know, 700 or
No, it's more.
800.
It's more.
Oh, is it now?
Let's just say it's $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had to spend the night. I had to get from the airport to the courthouse or to the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to walk, right?
Mm-hmm.
30-minute ride, Uber, cost a few bucks. Have to pay for the hotel.
Oh wait, the hotels now are what, $500 a night? I heard
No,
my
I mean,
brother told me that $500 a night.
no, this one was like $250.
Oh no, he said now it's 500.
So $250. I got to catch an Uber or a taxi to court or rent a car,
Mm-hmm.
right? I got to eat breakfast. I got to eat dinner. Got to eat lunch. So the real hard costs, they get up there for every trip to, to that state. I did a case, it seems like a couple of years ago in North Carolina, and actually it was, I guess it was, may have been before or right after COVID. There was more, the biggest expense in the case was not my attorney's fees. It was the
Mm-hmm.
travel cost and the time associated with the travel.
I was just going to say, what does that entail for you to go to a different state? You got to get, I mean, it's a process for you to go
Right, because
somewhere
you
else
have
other than
to,
California, correct?
the process itself, just to get permission to do a case in another state may take $1,500 to $2,000. Just that process.
Just
So that
for the
that
fees,
was the other thing. That was the other thing.
your time and everything.
She wanted me to pay that expense. I mean, I could do the case for free and probably lose $100,000 in real money.
Right, just to do the things you have to do, the necessities.
Right. And then how about the money that I lose from not working on paying clients here in town? Because I'm dealing with your case in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody thinks that I should be able to do cases for free no matter where they are. I wish I could. I just can't financially afford it.
Yeah, but
Hey,
like
listen,
I said,
right before this show, and Georgette, you text me this potential client's name and everything.
mm-hmm.
And as I told you, I've been texting with him and talking to him all day. Darren, a guy that lives here in Los Angeles wants to hire me, okay, to do his case. All right. But he doesn't want to pay me. He doesn't, he's not even looking for a discount.
He's a medical profession too, actually.
Okay.
He's just not going to pay you.
He has the money.
No. He doesn't want to pay.
He doesn't want to pay.
He hasn't hired me yet. He's trying to convince me to do the case
For free.
But that's not unusual.
What?
That's not unusual.
Absolutely.
Many people who call me expect, they have a sense of entitlement You ever
They
heard
think
that
you're
before?
rich. They think you're rich.
Let's
You know,
just
do you
assume.
know,
Let's
do you
assume
know one thing I've never
I'm a
done?
multi-billion.
I'm sorry, Davis. What did you say?
Assume that I'm a multi-billionaire.
Uh-huh.
Does that mean that I should still do their case for free?
Nope.
I don't
You know,
know.
I believe
there's
in
there's some,
capitalism, man. With
there's
capitalism, you
there,
get rich by doing
there's
working, you know?
there's something that it's really unique. I don't think it's unique to lawyers. When you have a paying client, you have someone that's appreciative, you have someone that is trying to help you do the case. When you do a case for free for a client, there's no appreciation. There's no gratitude because it's
It
free. It's
must be
just
more stress too.
it's more entitlement.
Right.
I have a case right now where the client can't afford to pay, and that's okay. We started on the case, but she texts me all hours of the day and expects me to be able to pull the file and read it. And
Mm-hmm.
the other day, the client texts me. I was literally in Walmart shopping,
On the weekend. I think it was Sunday, right? It was on a
and
Sunday.
and she got upset that I didn't have the file on, that I couldn't open it up and answer a question.
I
Do you
know who you're
know?
talking about.
Do you know
But
what's
hey,
funny?
but there's a
Oh,
question
Jesus
here
Christ,
on
man.
ER. So
Oh,
basically,
man.
Mike is telling her, giving her some legal advice, but I'm not sure if it's the right legal advice. So I think they're trying to get their questions answered, but we're talking about something completely different.
Okay,
So can you,
what's ER saying? Thanks, Mark.
um, let's see.
Courts care not about alienation unless you can just absolutely undeniably bring it to their attention.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means.
And then I believe Mike said, I've heard that supervised visits people are great expert witnesses, if that helps. So the supervised visits people, depending on the case, it could be a social worker supervising the visit in their facility. It depends on the case, but also depends on who's paying the supervised visit person. Oftentimes they side with the payer, the parent that's paying them. So the best thing to do, in my opinion, the best strategy is hiring a private investigator. And if the visit is outdoor, he or she would follow you and will record everything that's going on in the visits. Right, Davis? Or
Well, I've heard people do that.
I'm
I
yeah.
I've I've never asked an investigator to do that, but I was on a case recently in another county where before I got on the case, the parent um, had hired an investigator and was doing that. The problem is this: the parent thinks it's a great idea. Guess who doesn't think it's a great idea?
The judge? Yeah. Yeah,
And
I agree.
a lot of people are trying to do things that they think are great ideas,
Mhm,
but they don't know anything about the law, the strategy, and that particular judge.
mhm. I agree.
And then they don't understand why the judge doesn't think it's a great idea.
But the private investigator would work because it did work.
Oh, the guy did the investigation, and
Mhm,
I think he videotaped or overheard conversations
mhm,
that were generally positive for the client.
mhm.
The problem was it wasn't given the weight that the parent thought it would be given. In
But
other
wouldn't it
words,
be opened up in trial?
it could be,
Because
could
that
be,
was a deposition, the client. Remember the client that went to your office for deposition against the monitor that was related to the wife of the husband,
yeah,
right? So wouldn't that hold
yes,
uh, uh, in court during trial when you cross-examine?
it would,
Hmm.
it would.
Hmm. I think that it does work. So if you guys are in California, Davis and I know a private investigator. If you guys need to hire him, he's not expensive either, so he's pretty good.
Actually, he's very good. I
He's very good.
over the years, I used to use an investigator who died not too long ago. He passed away
God, damn,
prematurely. Prematurely, he was a young guy, and well, relatively speaking, I think he was late 40s.
young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he passed away. So
Hmm.
ever since I've been looking for a investigator to use, and I have used that investigator that you're mentioning, and I would give him a thumbs up. He's done
Absolutely.
some good work for me.
And he's very the client, Davis's client, said she couldn't even find him when he was following them, and he was taking pictures, and it was amazing. He recorded everything. And the monitor, you know, is a liar. But yeah, private investigator. His name is Art Bustamante. And if you guys need his number, just call my office number, which is 626-631-8901. You can text me at that number too. Just text your full name and just ask for Art Bustamante.
Let me put a caveat on warning on that. Before you get and try to use a PI in your case, please discuss it with your lawyer.
True. Forgot that part.
Don't just run out and hire a private investigator thinking it's going to
But
help
what
the
if
case.
what if their court appointed attorney, of course, they're not going to side with that. But you side with that because they hire you, right? You give them advice and then you tell them, hey, this will help the case as well, right? But their
Well,
court
it depends
appointed
on
attorney,
Miss G. It depends on what it is.
right? It depends.
I
Every
mean,
case,
people have asked me about getting a private investigator, and many times I've said no, that's not a good idea.
right?
It depends.
Mhm,
And here's the other thing that's really dangerous.
mhm,
I know someone that used a private investigator in a case, and it turned out great.
mhm.
From there, that person thought the using of a private investigator should be great on all cases. And then I think the next 2 or 3 times they used an investigator on a case, it boomeranged and shot him in the foot.
Why? Can you give us a reason why to help other people?
The private investigator was not able to get the same quality of information, and the parent paying, had to pay the cost. So imagine, you hire a private investigator, you give them, $3,000, $5,000 to get that juicy dirt information, and then they can't get it legally anyway,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it still has to be legal to try to be used in court. Here's where I think these types of things a private investigator would be good.
Mm-hmm.
ER is asking me a question. Okay. So I once had a case where my client alleged that the father lived at his parents' house
Mm-hmm.
and his parents had the kid. Okay. And the order was father couldn't live there.
Mm.
Okay. Every time the social worker went over there, father wasn't there. Either because they had been warned the social worker was coming over, or the
Mhm.
social worker came over during daytime hours. Turns out the father had a job and he worked like 10 hours a day and he was only at home at night. He
Mhm.
only came home at night.
Mhm.
So a private investigator had to stake out the house several nights to show that and he videotaped, he showed that the father came home every night and
Mhm.
then left in the morning to go to work and then came home late at night. That way, it was proven that the grandparents on the father's side and the father had been lying to the social worker and to the judge.
Mm.
Okay, good way to use this, a private investigator.
That's a good one. Or if you suspect that the monitor is lying, either way, right? I mean, or related to the family.
Here's another good use. This
Mhm.
happened on a case I had.
Mhm.
There was an incident at a hotel,
Mhm.
and my guy says ABC happened. The government saying XYZ happened.
Right.
I had to send a private investigator to try to talk to some of the employees at the hotel
Mm-hmm.
to find out if they witnessed anything. After interviewing probably 6 or 7 of the employees, he came across one that was there when the incident happened, and she backed up the story, independently backed up the story
Mm-hmm.
of my client. She didn't even know my client. Good use of private investigator. But when you hire an investigator, because they cost money, have a plan, have a strategy. You don't want to waste money on a private investigator. Don't come up with something just general. Have something specific, a specific plan.
Correct.
Yeah.
I agree on that one. Like I said, if you suspect the monitor is something is not right with her information, or she's treating you, if she's being biased with you, that's the good time to hire. Am I right, Davis?
Yes.
Or yeah, especially if she's related also to the father or the father's wife. Am I right, Davis? And she
Ab-
did not disclose that. So the monitor did not disclose that
Right.
when she was, monitoring you, or prior to doing the paperwork. What I'm saying, when you complete the paperwork, you
Hmm.
both have to complete the paperwork. If she or he did not disclose that he's related or she's related to that side, then that's bias right there, because they're always going to side with the other side. Am I right?
Not always, but most
Oh
of the
my
time.
geez. Okay.
Most of the time.
Most
You can't say always. It's
uh
just scientifically
but
inaccurate.
but I get it. But if their relationship is strong, why didn't, or what I'm saying is, if there's some kind of honesty in it, why didn't you disclose that from the beginning? Why didn't she say, "Hey, I'm related to so and so. Is that going to be okay with you? But I am not biased. I will be neutral." Get it?
Got it.
So if she doesn't say that, then guess what? They're hiding something, right?
I don't know.
But come on, Davis, you've been there. You know what I'm talking about.
No, I hate to make, blanket generalities.
Okay, well, come on. Common sense.
Your common sense.
No, it's
That's
common sense.
exactly
If
that's
they're related to
exactly
the
the
father
argument.
who
That's
is the
exactly
abuser,
that's
no, if
exactly the
they're
argument of
related,
persuasion that I was
Davis,
talking about earlier.
Mr.
You think
Davis,
a certain way, that doesn't mean
listen.
everybody thinks that
If
way.
they are related to the family who stole the children from the mother, give me a break, Davis. Give me a break. Yes, it's biased.
You see what Maureen says? The last line, listen to him carefully. You're not listening, Miss G.
Nope, never, ever. She said, okay, well, read the rest. She said, everything he has said is so true. Petition have to be done in a certain order with the courts. Listen to him carefully. She's not talking to me. I know about the petition. We're talking about monitors and PIs.
See, in my mind, she's talking about just in general, the general universe.
Okay, that's in
Miss
your mind. That's
Miss
your
G.
assumption. That's your
Exactly.
assumption. Right. Right. We're talking about PI. See, she's even laughing. Thank you, Maureen.
She's
But
laughing at you.
she's laughing at you. No, I'm telling you, Vincent. I'm telling you, they're biased. You have to be careful with the monitors. Pay attention to the monitors,
No,
please.
I agree with that. You should.
Hmm. Yep.
Because people try to slip things past you all the time.
Hmm. Absolutely. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Now, when it comes to violation of amendment rights of parents, um, is it true that the court doesn't have to follow the amendment, the Constitution rights, amendment
No,
rights?
no, it's not true.
Okay, because I received a call today from someone who said that their attorney told them, oh, thank you, Maureen. In general, my friends, thank you. She corrected you, Vincent, in a nice way. But hold on. My question is, well, her question is, if her attorney told her that her court appointed attorney that the court doesn't have to follow um, constitution laws when it comes to children. And this case is in Ohio. And she wants to know if that was correct. She did make an appointment with you for tomorrow. She went to Calendly and made an appointment. But
Nobody follows Constitution law. It's the Bill of Rights that you're looking for. Constitution is telling us about the president, terms of a judge, all of that stuff.
all right,
The
yeah,
Bill
you're
of
right.
Rights.
Right, the Bill of Rights, yeah.
So the Constitution, the Bill of Rights,
Uh-huh.
applies to everything. Now, here's the big exception.
Oh, it does? The Constitution also?
Here's the big exception.
Mm-hmm.
There are exceptions to rules. There are exceptions to the Constitution. And sometimes the Constitution doesn't mean what you think it means. It's not plain English.
Mm-hmm. But isn't there guidelines? I mean, what do you think the I know you were not there in a conversation with him and her, but she
Look,
specifically said it doesn't work in court. He told her that.
When I went to law school, my constitutional law book was about this thick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And since then, laws have changed. And people, the Constitution, they call it a living, breathing document. It's constantly changing. So to say that the Constitution doesn't apply would probably be technically incorrect. What's more correct is constitutional applies, but you're either interpreting it differently from the courts, or it just means something completely different than what you thought it means. Like, here's the example that a lot of people give. You yell fire in a crowded theater. That's free speech, right?
Yes.
But the Constitution doesn't protect you from making that statement because it causes a stampede of people where people will get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So, Maureen, everything is based upon the Constitution. The problem is that it means different things to different people. That's why you have such political concerns about who's appointed to the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
One Supreme Court justice is going to interpret the law differently sometimes from another.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they have votes, 5-4. This is the law. But 4 constitutional Supreme Court justices who are probably constitutional scholars thought it meant something else. So you're always in good company. But it's a living, breathing document, and it's very flexible. So I can't tell you that it's always black and white because it's not.
It's not.
It's not.
And
here is the thing. When you really get into this from a philosophical point of view, should it be flexible or shouldn't it? Think about that question. Maureen says, very true.
Now look at Mike, though. Thank you, Maureen. Mike said, speaking of this document, Amendment 5, well, I guess he meant Fifth Amendment and the caseworker.
Okay, so here's the thing, Mike, and you're not going to like this, but it's the law. Generally speaking, the Fifth Amendment doesn't apply to social workers. Why? Because they can't put you in jail.
Wait. Did you say they can't or can? Did I hear that? I didn't hear that right.
Cannot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're talking to a police officer, it applies because they will put you in jail.
Say what?
They can put you in jail.
But the social worker can also call the police and put him in jail, correct?
No. The social worker can be a witness against you.
Absolutely. Would love that, I'm sure.
But the Fifth Amendment, a lot of people argue that it doesn't apply, such that there is a special statute in California that talks about self-incrimination. And over the years, you'd be surprised about the arguments attorneys get into with judges about whether the Fifth Amendment applies in a juvenile dependency case.
But Mike also said they work for the government. I absolutely disagree. And I am going to agree with Mike on that one, because they do work for the government, right?
We don't. Well, I'm going to say this nicely. We don't care if you agree or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the test. Working for the government is not the test.
Mm-hmm.
So you can agree with it or disagree with it.
Right, right.
That's like telling me I should be able to go on red and stop on green. Well, that's nice.
Different, Vincent.
No,
That's an extreme right there.
Exactly. To make my point, it's the extreme example. Because you got to take these logical games or logical things to its extension.
Wow.
That's how you test reasoning. That's how you test an analysis. But remember this, there is no definite answer in the law. It's not black or white. It's always gray. And that's what frustrates people, because you could think one thing and be right on day 1, and I could think another and be right on day 15.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at the same laws. It all depends upon what? The facts, the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, I told you what's the best argument you can make persuasively in a court of law? The
Mm-hmm.
facts.
The fact.
And, I used to be on do a lot of appeals in California, and there were some great appellate writers. The really great appellate briefs that I've ever seen argue the facts or set forth the facts so persuasively that it's almost as if you could never disagree with that. And where a good place to do that, to read some examples of that, are, you can just do this with Google nowadays. You can Google briefs filed with the Supreme Court in famous cases, and you can pull up the briefs and you can read them.
Wow.
Read the losing briefs, and you'll say to yourself, how could the justices not agree with that? And if you look at the facts section, they're incredibly written. I mean, it's just it's amazing. And I know lawyers that have done that. They spend hours sculpting the factual section. The point is working for the government is not the test. Maybe you think it should be, maybe you're right. Unfortunately, it's not the test. Mike goes on to say, your recommendation is to not talk to the caseworkers. Yes, that's my recommendation. Please explain how to do that politely. I'm thinking emails, recordings in person, and a notepad. Okay, this is actually a good question. I should do a video about this.
Yes.
In regular life, when we're outside the law and you don't want to do something, you know what you usually do? You usually do something called third partying it. I'll give you an example. I'm Darren Guy, and somebody comes to me and says, hey, man, I need you to loan me $1,000. One of the things Darren could say is, to be nice and polite about it, oh, man, I wish I could. I would do it. I would loan you that $1,000 right now. But you know what? My wife won't let me. The third party. So this is what I tell my clients. And I told someone this just the other day. When the social worker says to you, you have to talk to me, your response is, and I have them write this down, by the way. I'd love to talk to you, but my attorney, he's kind of a hard head. His name is Vince Davis. Why don't you give him a call and we can set up a meeting where we can all meet together? So, Mike T, that's the best way to do it, is to third party it. You don't want to be that guy. Well, you're that guy that, Mr. Guay doesn't want to lend $1,000 to, so he blames his wife. Now, here's the interesting thing. Stop for a moment. Have you ever done that in your life? Have you ever third partied it?
Uh, are you
It's my
talking?
answer for everything. Mary
Yeah,
won't let me.
exactly. You third party it.
You're dang right.
But you've do you remember when the one of our clients had me check your calendar for a CFT meeting that they wanted to have with her without you, and you demanded for the social worker or the meeting, the workers, to set the appointment on. I think it was a Zoom or something for you and the client, your client,
Mhm.
and they were upset and they contacted me. One of the workers contacted me via text, and they said our calendars are not working with your attorney, the attorney's calendar. I said then make it work, and exactly 2 days later they made it work. Do you remember that? You know who I'm talking about? You were
Vaguely, I do, but that happens
That
all
was
the
like a
time.
couple of weeks ago. They didn't want you there. That's the
Right.
point I'm trying to say. They do not want your attorney to hear what's going on. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Of course.
Yeah.
You know, LA used to say all the time that
Hmm.
attorneys weren't allowed in the CFT meetings.
Yeah.
And then what happened, it came up in several lawsuits,
Hmm.
not just our lawsuits. You
Hmm.
know, when you deprive an attorney, a person of representation
Hmm.
in a governmental meeting,
Hmm.
that's a violation of their civil rights.
Hmm.
So, social workers used to say all the time, attorneys aren't welcome. They're not
Hmm.
allowed. They don't they don't say that so much in LA County anymore.
Hmm.
You know why?
Hmm.
They were getting sued about it.
Really?
Yeah. So in America, you don't have to have interaction with a governmental employee if you don't want to, unless your attorney's there.
Yes, and not show any anger too. That's very important. Maureen just mentioned that.
Right.
Can the attorney get a court order to be able to have the mother videotape the visitation and the videotape the visitation for her kids and her,
We
right?
already wait, Miss G, we already answered this question earlier.
I know, but it's up to
We,
the judge. I
yeah.
understand that.
So your question, listen to your question. Can the
Right.
mother get an order?
No,
Yes, she can. That doesn't mean she's gonna get it.
right.
She
But
can
what
try.
can you do and say to the judge to persuade?
Good. Now that's a good question.
Mhm.
Um, and the answer I gave you earlier, you didn't like.
You're right.
And that,
I didn't like that.
but that's the best argument I would give. You want to give an answer that addresses the judge's concern before the judge voices the concern.
Mhm.
So here's the thing. You want to take a video of the kid. What are the three best arguments the social worker and the social worker's attorney are going to use against you? And then when you figure that out, you in your request, you tell the judge, you address those objections before they even bring them up. By the way, judge, the social worker can keep the camera,
The social worker, what?
can keep the camera and the video. We just want to be able to use it at the time of trial. Just that alone, I think, would stop a lot of social workers from exaggerating how bad visits are when they're not.
Wow, that's a good point that you just made.
So it's just, it's what they call prophylactic, right?
Prophylactic. Big
There's
word.
protection. There's protection before the issue comes up.
Okay. That's a good point. I like that one. But that's only if the court-appointed attorneys can actually implement that. Let's think about it. Let's
Well,
let's
I don't know. You just I don't know. You know, I don't know what other attorneys would do, whether they are private or court appointed. I don't know. They
What
don't
about
they don't
okay,
talk to me. They
I
don't
understand.
share their concerns, they or their agendas.
What
I
about
tell you this all the time. Everybody has their own agenda.
oh yeah, I know that. Learned that the hard way recently. What if they want to interview the kids privately?
Who?
Social workers.
They have the right to interview them privately if a case is started.
What if there's no case started?
Unless they have a warrant, they cannot, unless you agree.
Okay, Celeste, you got your answer, honey. Okay. If it's possible to go through the entire reunification period without ever having a CFT meeting? Question mark.
The answer is yes, it is possible.
Oh, wow. You know what? I thought you were going to say no. Really? Because they have CFT meetings all the time.
Look, CFT meetings are only used to gather evidence against you.
Right.
You know, people think CFT meetings are used to like get an understanding,
Mm-hmm.
try to work together.
Mm-hmm.
In my humble opinion, just my opinion, that's BS. CFT meetings are a chance for the social worker and her supervisor and maybe another couple of workers to get you in a room by yourself
Right.
and make you say things and tell things that you shouldn't be saying or telling.
Correct.
That's CFT. Now, other people will think differently.
Mm-hmm.
That's been my experience. And that's why I tell people don't do it. Or in most cases, not all cases, but don't do it unless I'm there. Well, how are you going to be there? I'll be on the phone or on Zoom.
Exactly. When might you deny signing a safety plan? The first time they offer it? The first time they say sign a
Well,
safety plan?
no,
You say
see that
no.
here's the whole generality. It depends on what the plan says.
There's fine lines in there though. See, people don't read. Parents are so, they're traumatized of the whole might take your children thing. Come on. They're traumatized with it, so they don't read everything. There's fine lines in there. Writing, very small, detailed, right?
hmm
What are you reading?
I'm reading a private message from my co-host, Mr. Guai.
Huh? Oh, my Lord. I said, I am not signing anything unless it says I will continue doing what I've been doing. Okay, so Lindsay, I know who Lindsay is, but Lindsay wrote that. So, how are you going to answer that, Mr. Davis?
What, Lindsay or Darren?
I don't really. This have nothing to do
Lin-
with Darren. You can go
Lindsay
ahead
said,
and
I am not signing anything unless it says I will continue doing what I've been doing. Lindsay, I can't tell you one way or the other. I don't know what it says.
Mhm.
It's like everything is not a generality in the law. So, I'd have to see what it says. Okay. Jeff, and this is actually a good question. The answer is, if you're in California, yes.
Mhm.
Okay. I assume that it can be in all states. I don't know because I'm not licensed in all states. But yes, expedited ICPC is a thing. So what is an expedited ICPC? It's when the judge orders an ICPC and calls it expedited. It must be completed within 30 days by the receiving state.
Mhm.
If you don't order an expedited ICPC, you could be waiting 4 to 6 months, and the case will keep going without you. And then the kid will be bonded to the foster parent. And then when you finally get your ICPC approval in 6 months, they won't want to move the child because of the bond with the foster parent.
That's true. That's the problem. The bond. That's how they get you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we're gonna have two attorneys from other states that's gonna join you on your show. And I'm hoping we can get attorney Michael also.
From New York,
Hmm. Yeah, to join the group as well.
he's a pistol.
He is. I love that guy. He's a New Yorker. I can tell you that. His attitude is like right on fighter. But yeah, but there's going to be, I'm hoping it can be three attorneys. So,
Oh, you know
um,
what? You know what? Time flies when you're having fun. We're at an hour and 14. We're supposed to stop at 45.
Oh my God, you're right.
All right, today is Saturday. Oh, Grace
So
is still with us.
Friday.
Today's Friday. I will not be able to do the live show tomorrow, Grace, so please run a best of. I have to be someplace tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. But I will be back live on Sunday, and I hope the two of you can join me at 9:30 a.m. on Sunday morning. Okay?
All right.
Thank you for joining me today, Miss G and Mr. Darren. And Grace, thank you again for producing tonight's show. And I will see everyone. Hopefully, you'll watch the rerun tomorrow, the best of. And then we'll see everyone live on Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night.